Hi BBYO, my name is Sophia Kianni from North Florida region, and I'm here today with Sophia Kianni, a climate activist, executive director, and co-founder of Climate Cardinals, which translate climate control and information to over 100 languages. Sophia, we're so excited for you to be here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So your passion for climate control is completely unmatched. Tell us about Climate Cardinals, what kind of inspired you to start it, and kind of where it started.
Yeah, of course. So I decided to start Climate Cardinals. Really, the inspiration for it came when I was 12 years old and I took a trip to Iran, which is my parents' home country. While I was there, I was struck by the fact that temperatures in the Middle East were rising more than twice the global average. And I also realized there was a lack of climate information available in Farsi, which is Iran's native language. And so when I was confronted by this issue of language accessibility in the climate movement, I began to organize with groups like Fridays for Future, Extinction Rebellion, in high school, until ultimately I decided to start Climate Cardinals in my senior year of high school. And so now we've grown to over 8,000 volunteers in 41 countries. It's been incredible to see the growth we've had over the past few years. And so our mission is to translate climate information into over 100 languages so that we can make climate education as accessible as possible to the majority of the world.
That is amazing. Thank you for what you're doing for our planet. Oh my gosh. So being a young activist as only 20 years old, which is insane, what would you tell your 16-year-old self, kids my age, about what you are today, and what advice you would give your younger self?
Honestly, I think it all drills down to following your passion. I think that at 16, I cared just about as much about climate change as I do now, but now I just have so many more opportunities and platforms. But I think that at the end of the day, what has stayed true to me is that my mission to make the world a better place has stayed there. And it's just about the fact that I think that I continually pushed myself to explore avenues to grow my passion and to see how I could get my message to the widest audience possible. I know me and you were talking about how I launched Climate Cardinals on TikTok. I used the tools at my disposal when it came to leveraging social media, which I genuinely think is one of our strengths as young people, is there are so many tools that we know how to use that our parents and grandparents didn't. And I think that leaning into your strengths is the biggest lesson that I've taken away since I was 16 that I've continued to do. And I think that you and everyone should continue to do.
I think that's amazing how social media is kind of changing our generation, since we kind of depend on it a lot for just making us smile or actually making a change. So as a young person in a kind of mature, dominated world, how did you kind of break that barrier? And because sometimes as kids, we don't normally get taken seriously.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of put yourself out there to kind of start and change the world?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say that a large part of it is owning your authority as a young person and being unapologetically confident. I think that there's such a notion, there's this expectation that I need to wear a suit and go into these rooms, presenting a version of myself that's more mature in order to be taken seriously. And I completely reject and dispel that notion. I mean, I will proudly go into a room wearing my skirt and whatever it is I want to wear, and unapologetically be myself, because I know that at the end of the day, the message that I'm getting across is what's important, and people need to listen to my words. They shouldn't care about my age. They shouldn't care about how I present myself, because it's the mission and message that I'm getting across that I want people to care about. And I think that when I present myself like that, and when I own my authority as a young person and realize that my age gives me a unique perspective that other people don't have, I think that that's how I project the confidence that allows people to take me more seriously and to realize that the credibility of my work has nothing to do with my age.
Yeah, and especially since we are the future of our kind of the world,
Yeah.
people should listen to the future. And I know when I do things, I'm kind of shot down in a big world, but you being a role model to teens just like me, it's so empowering, and it kind of inspires me to, go out there and do something big. So also going on that kind of barrier as a woman and in this world, and how did you kind of push yourself out there and break that glass ceiling? Because kind of scientists are also stereotypically known as mostly men, and especially as a girl, it's awesome to see you. So how did you kind of push yourself?
Yeah, I mean, especially in a field like climate change, actually, the UN found that around 80% of the people who are displaced by climate change are women. And so the women's rights movement and like climate activism is very linked. And I think that it's so important for women, particularly like young women of color, people who have actually firsthand experienced the impacts of climate change or whose families have experienced the impact of climate change. I think that hearing these stories and leaning into the angle of the fact that we need to make sure that those who are most like marginalized, the marginalized communities that are being disproportionately impacted by climate change are the ones whose voices need to be heard. And so I think that for me, I think that being like a woman and from my Iranian background is my greatest strength, because it's given me a story to lean on and a firsthand experience to realize that climate change is something very real. It's something that people are experiencing, and it's something that's getting worse and worse. And especially I think that as a young person, knowing that since I'm aware that my generation, our generation, is going to be worse impacted by climate change if action isn't taken, I think that all of these aspects of my identity have pushed me into the person that I am and made me care about climate change more and more. And I think that it definitely has tied into my story, and I hope makes people take me more seriously because it gives me a unique perspective.
Yeah, I think there's power when we come together, especially women. I know you skipped your econ quiz to go to a women's rights march, which is, in the grand scheme of things, amazing. So, talking to young teens who want to make an impact and still balancing high school and workload and all of that, what is a call to action you want to tell teens globally? Just how do they get started, just like you did?
I honestly think that putting yourself out there is the first step. I remember when I first wanted to get involved in climate activism, I started by cold DMing maybe like 100 different people. Like I just DM'd all these different climate activists, all these different organizations that I was inspired by. That's how I first started working with Fridays for Future, Extinction Rebellion, a variety of different grassroots climate organizations. And there is no reason why any other young person can't do that. Email the local organizations in your area, reach out to your school club. If you don't have one, start a school climate organization or environmental club. I think that putting yourself out there and taking the first step to become involved, like taking the initiative, is all that you really need in order to find opportunities. And so I would definitely encourage other young people to take that first step of like researching organizations, institutions that you're inspired by, even people that you're inspired by, and reaching out to them. I know that like I tried to make an active effort to respond to emails and DMs that I get as much as I can. And because I know like I was there once. I was once a young person who was like stalking someone on Instagram and was very inspired by their work, and I reached out to see how I could get involved. And I think that putting my foot in the door was really like the first step to opening my journey.
So ultimately, just if you're passionate enough, take the initiative, do the
Go
thing.
after it.
Yeah, and I think that's so important, since most of our generation wants to do something but doesn't have the voice to do it. And again, a role model like you is so empowering to have. And I know when I first kind of researched you, I was like, wow, like our world is going to be a good place.
Because of people like you too.
Oh my gosh, stop. Well, thank you so much for coming today. I know in just a few minutes out of your hometown. It's great to have you back, and thank you for what you're doing for the world. Again, this is Sophia Kianni, an amazing young woman activist for climate change, starting Climate Cardinals, over 100 languages, talking about info on how to eliminate climate change.
Thank you so much.